Welcome. It is 6 o'clock, and we're going to go ahead and start our kindergarten session on readiness and preparation. My name is Emily Herman. I am the K-6 curriculum director, and with me tonight is Becky. I'm going to let you introduce yourself.
All right. Hi, everyone. I'm Becky Franco. I'm proud principal at Hopewell Early Childhood School.
All right. And a couple of tips for our session tonight. We will be using the Q&A feature to allow you to ask questions this evening. So please don't use the raise hand feature when I'm presenting. Becky will be answering questions, and then when she is, I will be answering questions. So we'll try to get all of your questions answered if you'll just please use that Q&A feature. Uh, and then any family or student specific concerns, you can send those directly to my email. It's listed there, or to the principal of your building, and we'll be sharing their contact information as well in this. So we just want to make sure that your questions get answered, and if it's specific to your family, that it can remain private. This session is being recorded, and we will be posting both the slides and the video onto our website. So you will be able to access any of the links that you see tonight or any of the information. Typically, that's the next day. So it will be on our website. All right, so we'll go ahead and get started. All right, so this information actually comes from the Ohio Department of Education and Workforce. And this is all about getting ready for kindergarten. And something kind of fun to share with all of you. I myself have 3 children, and one of them will be starting kindergarten this year also, or excuse me, next school year with all of your students. So I'm coming to you as a curriculum director and a parent of an incoming kindergartner. But these are the things that the state really talks about for students, five-year-olds across the state, what they look for and what we here at Lakota look for in a kindergartner to really help them be ready to be successful in the classroom. So number one, can your child separate from the primary caregiver without anxiety? And that is a tough one. For a lot of your children, this might be the longest time they've been away from you, leaving and going to kindergarten. So this summer, that's something that we can start to do practicing is taking them to places where they'll interact with other adults. We have some ideas that we'll share later. We have a safety village that the district puts on that is a great free opportunity to give yourself and child some time apart to start working on that independence and realizing that they are safe and that you're coming back. We look for, does your child use self-control? Are they able to keep hands to themselves, share and take turns, cooperating and playing with other children, or using classroom supplies appropriately? These are important so that they're successful in the classroom, that they make friends, and have a fun time at school. So ways you can work on that with your child is giving them opportunities at playgrounds, play groups, at the library, at story time, right? Those types of activities where they're interacting with other children and have some opportunity to share, take turns, and disappointment of I have to wait. That's really hard for a 5-year-old. Also cooperating with adults and authority figures. Like I said earlier, this could be the first time your child is really being asked to listen to a different adult. And that can be difficult at first. And so giving them those opportunities in something like a safety village or library where they're interacting with other adults other than their parents, grandparents, family members. We're looking for students to demonstrate self-help skills. So these are things you want to start practicing with your child, using the restroom independently. They are with us all day and they will be going to the restrooms as a class or by themselves. And so that becomes really important that they have that independence to be able to zip and button and wipe, right? All of those things are hard skills that our 5-year-olds are learning. So you want to practice those things over the summer. Putting on and zipping their own coat, right? When we think about these things, it's so much easier for us to do it quick. But when they're in a classroom, it's really important that they start to build those muscles up in their fingers and that skill to be able to do that. Of course, our teachers will help. We know and really let me say about everything we shared tonight, we know that kindergartners come in all different places in their development. And our teachers are so amazing at really meeting kids where they are. There are things you will hear tonight that you'll think, oh, my child's been doing that since they were 2. Or there might be something that you hear that isn't something your child's doing yet. There's no reason to worry about that. We will meet them where they are and help them grow. But these are some things that really help them be successful from the start that you can start to practice. And with me saying that, let me say tying shoes is on the list. And we know, I think my son was in about 4th grade by the time he learned how to tie his shoe. So these are skills that they're going to continue to work on and grow into. All the things we've shared so far are not academic in nature. And while academic skills are so important, and that's right, the point of school, we're working on building those skills, the ability to manage their emotions, follow directions, and attend to tasks really let kids thrive in a classroom environment with a large group of students. So it's important that we get kids curious, excited, and then they really have that opportunity to be successful and take off in their learning. I'm going to switch over now and talk about some academic skills that are other things that you can work on and that will help them be ready as they enter kindergarten in August. But using classroom tools and toys effectively, cutting with scissors, holding and using a pencil, crayon, or marker, building with blocks or Legos, those are things that are fun and easy to practice over the summer and start to strengthen the muscles in your child's hands that will allow them to be successful in writing. And then making sure that students can express self-awareness. So being able to know their first and last name. Lots of children know their first name, and sometimes we just don't even think about do they know their last name. So it's really important that when an adult asks them their name, that they're able to respond. Something to practice is writing your first name and naming the letters in your first name. And if your child has that, moving on to that last name. And then also knowing the names of their primary caregivers. At the bottom of this slide is a link to Ohio's Department of Education and Workforce, where you can get more information about the items that are listed. Right. So when our students come into kindergarten, there are some skills that we will assess for at the beginning, just to help us know where your child is in their learning and let us hit the ground running. So some of those skills that we test out are, can they read and write their first name? Do they recognize some letters and sounds? Are they able to count from 1 to 20? I know my daughter is still working on that. And that's something that we practice a lot at home. Are they able to count a set of objects to 10? Can they name common 2D shapes, recognize colors? Do they have skills with a scissor, pencils, crayons? I know scissors sometimes sound scary, but if you get some of those safety scissors and really guide that work, it's probably will be one of your child's favorite toys or tools, I should say, right? Uh, can your child listen attentively to a book that's being read aloud? The library is a great place to practice that, or with you before bed. Can they answer questions about the book? And that can be while you're reading it. You can stop and say, what do you think is going to happen? And just making sure that they're listening and comprehending that story. And then this is a big one. Following 2 to 3 step directions can sometimes be hard for students. So they might be able to follow one direction, like get your coat. But if you gave them two, get your coat and shoes and put your shoes on, are they able to remember all of those steps and able to do that? How are we doing, Becky? Do you have anything to add there?
We're good. I think the most important thing to know is yes, we're working on academic skills, and if your child hasn't yet mastered these skills, that's okay. As Emily said, we're working on those with our own kids at home, working on those independence and academic skills. We'll pick up where you leave off.
Absolutely. All right. So these are some fun ideas for the summer to practice early literacy and math readiness. And what you're going to notice here is that a lot of the things that you're already doing are what gets kids ready for school. And so hopefully you'll pick up a new fun tip here, and you'll also hopefully be able to give yourself a pat on the back and know that all the things that you're doing with your child are really getting them prepared to be ready for school. So talking is huge. Language is such an important part of children's development and such a big part of literacy as well. If we can speak it, we can write it. And building our vocabulary helps with reading comprehension. So letting your kid talk, I know mine would talk from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. if we let her. Uh, but just letting them share with you about their day, you sharing with them about yours. A great time to do that is to ask your child to help you with preparing a meal. It could be breakfast, lunch, or dinner, and talking about what you're doing, talking about the steps first, second, next. All those words are words that carry over into all parts of their day. You can talk about the names, colors, shapes, textures, tastes while you're cooking, and you can sneak math in by counting the ingredients or the measurements while you cook. On the go, in your car, that's a great place to count things you see as you're driving. You can count how many red cars can you find, or as you are walking to a store, let's count how many steps it takes from the car to Target. Gives them that practice with counting. Also, you can talk about shapes you see, or ask them do a shape hunt in the car. Can you find something that's in the shape of a circle? And have them look out the window for those things. Singing is so important as an early literacy skill. It gives kids an opportunity with rhyming, playing with words, and the songs can be about everyday routines. They can be things you make up. It can be about getting dressed, washing our hands, or it could be they're keeping their favorite playlist in the car and singing along with them. Asking them to listen for words that rhyme, or when you're making up your song, asking them to try to think of a word that rhymes with the one that you used as you make it up. Also, this was one of the best tips I've ever read, is that when you feel angry and you are trying to give directions, maybe they're not listening, if you sing them, it'll make you feel better, and usually they listen. So just a fun little tip.
You're teaching
Reading.
me something new tonight,
Yeah.
Emily.
Reading, you can encourage your child to choose books they're interested in, even if they're a book you might think is too long for their attention span. You can modify the way you read books. You could just do a picture walk. You can make up a story with the pictures. Another great source of reading is a cereal box. That's a lot of fun to read at home with your child if they are having difficulty with sitting through a whole story. Um, Magazine subscriptions are fun if your child has a birthday coming up or um, looking for something new and exciting with reading. We can also look for words and numbers all around us. So while you're out and about looking for letters or numbers that they know, you can even have them read environmental print, which are, they can read the word on the stop sign or the McDonald's sign. And what that does is it really builds their confidence as readers. Writing, um, getting pens and pencils in your kids' hands is so important to help strengthen the muscles and get them ready for writing. You can also encourage students after they draw a picture to write about it. And that could be them telling you the story and you writing the words down, or maybe they're writing letter strings, or you remember where it looks like cursive, but having them read the story to you. And what that helps children understand is that the words convey the meaning in the story. Um, let's see, reading also,
Emily, if I can interject
yeah,
here, we just
great.
had a great comment in the Q&A. Jenny brought up that Book It is doing a summer program as well to encourage kids to read. So it's always great to bring back a classic. I had to bring that out.
Is that the Pizza Hut bucket? I love free
Yes.
pizza.
Sign me up.
Awesome.
Thanks, Jenny.
Yeah, we do have some links too at the end. Midpoint Library also has a great summer program that's free, encourages kids to keep track of their reading, and they can turn it in for prizes. So, but great idea. Thank you for sharing. Also, writing, one way to prepare students for writing is really working on building the muscles in their fingers. And you can do that through having students play with Play-Doh, tweezers, Legos. Just think about those tiny things where they're really working those finger muscles, threading beads, cutting with scissors, uh, putting stickers on paper. All fun things that keep them occupied and help to build the muscles in their hands. Different songs do the same. Finger songs like Itsy Bitsy Spider, Open Shut Them. Talk about going back to the classics, right? Those help build students' finger muscles and prepare them to hold a pencil and be able to write. And then lastly, playing is a great way to get kids ready for school. Dress ups is a fun way to play with language, do storytelling. They can act out favorite books or make up their own. And when playtime's over, you can have them count the toys as they put them away. Another one of our favorites in the car is playing I Spy, or at the doctor's office when we're waiting, or any place we're waiting, doing the Ridley, Ridley, I see something you don't see, and the color of it is. And then they have to try to guess. 20 questions is another fun one where I'm thinking of an animal and they'll ask you questions and try to guess what animal it is, or they can think of an animal and you ask questions to try to guess what it is. All those are fun games that you can play together that really help build children's language. All right. And then we talked about this on that first slide, but again, just some of those independence and self care skills that help kids get ready, using the restroom independently, practicing buttoning, zipping, shoe tying, multiple directions. Oh, this is a big one, practicing opening and closing lunch materials, right? If you think about that cafeteria, helping them learn how to making sure they can open the bag of fruit snacks, or they know how to twist off the thermos, opening the little bottles of water. All of those are hard for 5-year-olds, and so getting some practice with that can help. Again, we always have volunteers and teachers, probably Mrs. Franco, right, in the cafeteria helping
Oh,
students
yes.
doing those things. But good things to practice. Uh, you want to really work this summer on giving your children opportunities to build their attention span outside of screen time. So I know that's an easy break, and definitely not saying that you can't, but really trying to work on building their attention span by doing other activities. Encouraging social interaction with other children, practicing turn taking, sharing, and problem solving is huge and they will continue to practice that in school as well. Um, Practicing asking others for help or clarification. That's really hard too for a 5-year-old. Making sure that if they're not sure what they're supposed to be doing, that they know that they can ask questions and get help. And another way to start to work on that independence, you could at a restaurant encourage them to order their own meal, giving them that practice to talk to other adults. And then really a few weeks before school starts, finding a schedule that works for you and your family, making sure your child is getting enough sleep, because we know having enough sleep really affects behavior and student well-being. And it's a long day, a whole day for a 5-year-old in the fall. I'm going to say it's a long day for children and teachers. It's exhausting, and they will come home tired. But it is so fun and so wonderful. But really want to make sure they're getting a good, solid night of sleep. And Becky, do you have anything to add?
So we had in the Q&A, someone had asked about curriculum, assessments and things. We'll get to that here in a little bit. But to echo what you were saying, Emily, about finding a schedule that works, those first few weeks are very tiring, even if if your child's attended preschool for some time, that jump from a 2.5 hour day of preschool to a full 6.5 hour day of school is a big one. And so, they are going to come home tired, ready to put their head down, maybe even take a nap. That's something you might not have heard for a while. Trying to keep them awake and maybe scooch up that bedtime has been really helpful. We've paired with a lot of families where their child, goes home and takes a nap, and then they really struggle sleeping, either falling asleep or sleeping consistently through the night. And that's been something hard to kind of walk back in those schedules. So just trying to front load as much as you can ahead of the school year can really help save you in the long run.
All right, and this is some information about Lakota's Safety Village. It's a free drop-off summer program. It's only open to incoming kindergartners. It's of Westchester and Liberty Township. The classes are 2 hours long and they run in 5 days or 1 week sessions. All the lessons are taught by Westchester police officers, Butler County Sheriff Office deputies, firefighters, or the Lakota school bus drivers. There are morning and afternoon sessions available with a maximum of 20 students per session. And at the end of the week, the parents get an opportunity to come and observe their students driving the pedal cars and have a Safety Village graduation. So there is more information on Lakota's website. That is a link to the website. And like I said, we'll post these for you. It's at Freedom Elementary School. I signed my daughter up. She's looking forward to it. So it's a really wonderful opportunity to practice some of those things we've been talking about and learn about safety.
That's a great program. I know one of our children did it 3 years ago now, and he just loves it. He still talks about it. All right. So, starting to get into what the school year will look like, and that day to day at the beginning of the school year, we do something in Lakota called kindergarten phase in. If you have older students in the district, your child may have been through this similar structure. If they're in grades first through 12th grade next year, we will still do the split, what we call a staggered start of A through L beginning on August 13th and M through Z on August 14th. The same will be the case for kindergarten. So if your last name, like my last name, Franco, my child would start on the 13th. And then through those 2 days, the following 2 days, which I believe this week, this coming school year are a Monday and Tuesday, then they would be attending one of those following 2 days. So the next 2 days, we have half of the kindergarten classes start. And what that allows us to do is have two teachers pair up in a classroom. And during this time, during this staggered start, it allows the teachers to get to know more of a broad understanding of your child and how they fit into that classroom community. And then the next day, the other half of the classes go, and then the teachers will then push into the other classrooms, again, allowing for two teachers in a classroom, extra set of hands, another set of eyes and ears to be present in the classroom. Following those 2 days, what we then do is we have what we call a day to day. We come together as a kindergarten team. We look through some of those preliminary assessments that have been given during the first few days, observational data, what we're seeing. Are there students in this classroom that maybe needed some more help? At the end of the day, at the end of that day to day, what we will do is look to make sure that all of our classrooms are balanced, right? We do that in first and second grade during the summer months. Because we have the benefit of knowing students as they come into those upper grades. But coming into kindergarten, we want to do everything that we can on that day to day to make sure that our classrooms have a good balance of independent skills, academic skills, so that the teacher, when they're on their own in the classroom, is more uh, better able to meet the needs of the learners in that classroom. Okay. Now, the necessary changes really following that day to day are very few. If there is a family or a student that we do change their placement following that day, you will get a call from the teacher or the administrator in that building, walking you through what that transition would look like to a different classroom. And that's why we do that earlier on in the school year rather than wait until we are weeks into the school year and then have to be reactive in making any potential changes. Okay. During these days, during phase in, we absolutely spend more time than we would once we're up and running going about those routines at arrival, what it's like to get off of the bus, coming in from the car line, dismissal, right? What that looks like, where do we go, practicing that. We practice going to the cafeteria as a class. We take a field trip to the cafeteria, the restroom, learning not just the locations, but what those expectations are for safety, behavior, emotional safety in the building during those times and locations. And really the benefit of getting to have a smaller group of students, whether it's half of the class or whether it's two teachers in a single classroom, getting to learn how to school, for lack of better words, in those first days in more of a small group setting. And then we do take advantage of that time in the small groups by providing assessments both on those independent skills and those academic skills. And we'll dive into those here in just a sec.
Becky, we had a question about class sizes for kindergarten.
Sure.
Could you talk about that?
Absolutely. So the ideal class size in kindergarten is 22 to 25 is what we look to stay through for our board policy. All right.
All
Any
right.
other questions in the chat?
But right now that's it.
All right. So, more like I said, those assessments that we take a look at the beginning of the year, we look at letter identification. Again, students are not expected to know all of their letters. It's amazing if they do, and we'll meet them where they're at. But that is something that we assess. Both the name of the letter and even the sound. We'll take some time going into, B says B, what's the sound, right? And going through those different letter sounds. Can the student write their name? Can they write their first and last name? Is it all in capitals, right? Typical progression, students first learn capital letters, and then it's expected that they'll learn how to write some lowercase as they go through. We administer something called the Dibbles, and this really looks very closely at your child's fluency. Research shows that fluency in naming letters and letter sounds, being able to read words, being able to combine sounds. As a student is able to do that fluently, that demonstrates that they have an automaticity and they're able to recall that information, and therefore that it's more sound in their memory, and they're able to access that more as they begin and develop as readers. Um, we give some math assessments, right? Looking to count a group of objects, looking, do they have one-to-one correspondence? If I'm counting 5 objects, am I counting two of them as one, two, three, four, five? And can they identify their numbers? There are some state assessments that we do give. We give the kindergarten readiness assessment. This is an assessment that's given to kindergartners across the state of Ohio that assesses these very topics, such as letter naming, counting, one-to-one correspondence. So while it sounds we have it listed out, a lot of these skills do overlap. And then lastly, as a district assessment that we administer is called the MAP assessment, or Measures of Academic Progress. And this is a different type of assessment that your student will take from kindergarten through second grade and beyond. My fifth grader still takes the MAP assessment, and really it looks at a student's growth, their own personal growth. So where do they start in the fall, how they progress through the school year, and even year to year. So it's a different type of test in a classroom of 22 students. Every student is taking a different assessment based on how they answer questions. So it's a dynamic assessment in that sense, but it really helps us as teachers and educators understand where their progress is, and where we need to go next, and really prevent that boredom, and ensure that we're challenging them and meeting them with their needs. Okay, so during those first 2 weeks, beyond the first few days, we continue to build community, right? As we're learning routines and getting around the building, more importantly, perhaps, is getting to know each other and building relationships as peers and friends, whether there are peers that have gone to preschool for a few years, or peers that have not been to a preschool or an in-home daycare setting, right? Getting to be comfortable in a larger group, and that's an adjustment for sure. Um, Learning the building, that's that's an important safety piece that we learn. We want students to know where to get in, out, where exits to the building are, how to get to the playground, the restroom, but also learning those helpers through the building. At Hopewell, Mrs. Berry, my assistant principal, and myself, you'll see us all through the building, but we want students to know us as safe and trusted adults, that if they need something, right, we're a helper just like their teachers just like specials teachers and those throughout the building. Um, we're establishing the routines and the rules and expectations, like we had mentioned. And then lastly, introducing those materials, right? We know they're going to use those scissors before they're going to practice those cutting skills. But when they get to a classroom, what is it like to share materials? If I'm sharing pencils from the basket at my table, they're not all my pencils. We might share those with a group, or we understand how to use different materials in the classroom, such as an eraser or using markers. Sometimes that's the first time friends have used markers. So, understanding the different materials that they'll see throughout the classroom day to day. Okay. All right. I think this is what everyone is looking for here. What a day in the life of one of our kindergarten students looks like. Our school day starts at 9:05 and then ends at 4 o'clock. Our arrival, depending, on your child's school, will look a little bit different. Whether he or she arrives on a bus or by car, we have a routine to help your child get into the building safely. Those first few days, especially, we have many volunteers and adults that help walk children into the building by class, help walk them to their class. I know as a parent myself, you know, if my child doesn't know where their classroom is on day one, rest assured that there are adults that will help them get there. Once they're in their classrooms for the day, their typical day, they'll have some phonological awareness and phonics, knowing letters and letter sounds, how to manipulate those letter sounds, adding a sound to the beginning of the word, taking a sound away, switching the order, and then beginning to put those sounds together to create words and early reading and literacy and writing. All of these are a progression, but they're going to have a good portion of their day learning how to manipulate sounds and letters into words. We do something that correlates with our one of our programs, EL. They're called labs. This is a highly interactive time in our classroom where students are having discussions, having hands-on experiences in a variety of concepts, from weather to trees to plants, on different concepts that they're exploring throughout the year. Maybe they're creating something, maybe they're engineering or doing some research and asking one another questions and surveying. Labs is a great time to build that vocabulary and that familiarity with different concepts and building that background knowledge to help your child make connections with the text that they're reading and really have a deeper understanding of the world around them and what they're learning. Math, we use illustrative program for math, and it's very engaging, hands-on, especially in kindergarten. Our students, while they're learning counting and letter identification, there's a lot of hands-on manipulatives and using materials to help them count, help them learn our system of numbers that we use and the patterns that exist in math. And then last but not least, what we call unit studies, that's science and or social studies. We rotate back and forth between the two. We are going to be using a new program this year called Open SciEd, which is very interactive, has lots of hands-on opportunities, as one would hope, with science that your child will be interacting with. And then in social studies, all the same, reaching in and doing some projects and learning about the community around them that they'll learn throughout the year. So that's a lot of the academic side of their school day. But some of the other pieces that do exist, they will have lunch. Typically, I would say it's safe to assume across our buildings, lunch is a little bit earlier in the day, or else teachers will be answering the age-old question of when is lunch. for a good portion of their morning. Um, there is a daily menu that you will receive if your child will be purchasing lunch at school. But it also helps them to know whether they've packed their lunch, whether they need to get their lunchbox out of their backpack, or to understand the routine of buying a lunch. Most of our schools will have a card that your student will carry to the lunchroom and use that with a barcode on it to purchase their lunch. Those menus can be found on the website. And again, like Emily had said, to really work on that independent skill during lunch of opening containers, um, those Capri Sun, juice boxes, things that they'll have in their lunch, unzipping their lunchbox. While there are adults, of course, to help them, the more independent they are in those tasks, the sooner they can open that up and start reading right away. Recess, we do have a 20-minute recess surrounding around lunchtime each day. Some buildings do it before or after. And then we all have an additional brain break, 10 to 15 minutes in the afternoon or after students have had a good amount of time in their classrooms. Most teachers have, that kind of mapped out in their school day just to ensure that our students are not sitting or are sedentary for too long. And then throughout the day, we understand, especially during that transition into school and while we're learning how to school, there are lots of brain breaks built into the classroom, whether that's a Go Noodle, which is some fun dance alongs, or a calming activity. There are opportunities for those brain breaks built in through the day. Other classes that your child will be participating in, you heard me refer to those as specials. We have PE, art, music, technology, where your child is learning how to navigate using a Chromebook, how to use different apps, how to log into one login. As you navigate that as a parent, right? They could teach us a thing or two. They will participate in Wonder Lab, which is a more primary early childhood version of STEAM or STEM. A lot of that engineering, creating, making, building, collaborative work in Wonder Lab. And then the last special that we offer here is social emotional learning or health. Social emotional learning, they use a program that they'll go through, but they will also talk about everyday occurrences and how to self-regulate and how to discuss and um, think about our emotions and perhaps navigate new feelings that maybe we haven't had to navigate as we develop and age through those early childhood years. All right, Emily, how we doing? Any questions in the chat?
Great.
That
We
was a
have
lot.
some lunch questions, questions
Ooh,
about
okay.
allergies. Um, and I was just answering that we do have special tables in the cafeteria
Mhm.
if a child has an allergy that they can sit at. There are not restrictions to what other students bring, only if they were to sit at the allergy-free table would there be any type of restriction on what they're bringing for lunch.
Yes.
Um,
So in our cafeteria specifically, if you're sitting at the allergy table, of course, a friend may come and sit with you, but that friend that doesn't have the allergy must be purchasing our hot lunch option, as those are allergen free, just to ensure that any other children that are sitting at the table don't inadvertently pose a risk to those children with the allergies.
yeah. And then just a question about if a child packs their lunch but changes their mind and wants to buy, do they have that option?
Typically, once the lunch count has gone in the morning, we do ask that students maintain what they have chosen. However, if your child has packed lunch, but then when they hear the choices for that day, and there's money on their lunch account and they choose to purchase lunch, they can choose and do so. But you, as a parent, have the option in pay schools to put restrictions on your child's account. So if you do not want your child purchasing snacks with lunch or some extras, as some of the buildings do have, such as chips or a little ice cream sandwich, you can put those preferences on the account.
And if you ever are having any kind of lunch mishaps, talking to your child's teacher, they're always willing to help work that out with you. And we make sure that the kids eat. That's important.
Yes, that is most important. We want a full tummy going into the
Yeah.
afternoon.
All right.
Uh, Yeah, one thing I forgot to note here is half day kindergarten. We do have a section of that in only a single building. And their structure is still the same as what a full day of kindergarten would look like. However, the students in half day kindergarten do not go to specials or lunch. So that allows for that shortened day. And the lessons obviously are going to be modified a bit as they're fitting a full day curriculum into just that half day.
All right. One more question about lunch, Becky. There's a question
Sure.
about what if my child is a slow eater? What does that look like for them?
So lunch is a half an hour. I would encourage you if your child is a slower eater or is very social during lunch times, because this is a necessary, um, unstructured, less structured time of their day. We want them to be social. We want them to have those interactions. But I would encourage you to, work with your child during these months leading up to the school year, to, you know, work to make sure that we're able to finish a meal, a smaller meal such as lunch, within that, I'd say within 20, 25 minutes or so. By the time classes get into the cafeteria and they're sat, students have 25 minutes roughly to eat. And then that allows a few minutes to clean up and throw their trash away at the end. So it's a perfect time now to start working on that for sure. And your child would not be the only one that's a slow eater. I can assure you of that.
Thank you.
All right. So we spoke about those other adults that are in the building supporting your child, that we, introduce to throughout those first few weeks of the school year. And a school counselor is, in our building, Mrs. McIntosh is a crowd favorite. She's amazing. And you'll see her all about the building, as we are. Our counselor really works alongside the teachers and parents, and they're a great connection between home and school to help your child grow, and develop with their peers and with their friends. And if there are feelings, right, if they're having some unknown feelings or big feelings, helping to remove those barriers and any potential hardship that maybe is getting in the way of their learning in the classroom. The counselors do have lessons in the classroom, where they teach social skills and how to manage those big feelings, what it means to be mindful and aware of ourselves, and our presence and relationship with peers. So they're visible in every classroom every month. They do small groups throughout the school year. Typically, those will happen. They'll restart, 2 or 3 times or more through the school year, depending on students' needs. Where maybe there's a small group of students that we're seeing have similar needs, the counselor may pull them together. Parents, of course, are always in the know and approve of this before, but they'll provide that counseling session perhaps weekly, bi-weekly, and then also provide some short-term individual counseling. If there's something that happened at home that your child, just may need some more one-on-one attention for a couple days, um, a counselor is a great person to provide that. We also have mental health therapists in our building if that one-on-one counseling need is a little bit larger than what our counselor could provide in just a few touch points. That is something to absolutely talk to your child's teacher about at open house if you'd be interested. Um, of course, the counselor, like I said, is that bridge from home to school. So there's always consultation and communication with parents and teachers. Um, a counselor can also provide some workshops with families after school. The transition into kindergarten, right? Perfect time to learn, some of the things in the school year. So a counselor, may be offering some of those workshops in the evenings. They're also a great resource for referrals for that, more extensive needs in counseling and longer term therapy sessions, like I had mentioned. They can help branch out and find resources for you and your child. They also provide some school-wide programming through the school year. We have a kindness week. We have a few of them actually throughout the school year that Mrs. McIntosh here at Hopewell will lead the effort on. We do, some schools do pennies for patients, holiday help, um, you know, working with families perhaps in need that, getting Christmas gifts and things at the holidays. They help coordinate that with our community liaison. And then last but not least, in Lakota, some of our buildings, some buildings have Lakota therapy dogs, which will visit intermittently throughout the school year. And these are dogs that have received special training and are absolutely safe to be around students and just provide some extra love and therapy to our students. We know they love being around them and getting a little bit extra cuddles there with the therapy dogs. Another trusted staff member that we do have in our early childhood schools is our resource officer. Every campus in Lakota has a full-time school resource officer. If your school does not have a dedicated full-time, then your school may be on a campus, such as here is Hopewell. We are next door to Hopewell Junior. So right next door, we do share a full-time school resource officer on staff. And Officer Sly here in our building is very visible throughout the school day. You'll see him out there waving to cars and getting, our students out of the car in the morning to going on his safety walks around the building and making sure that, the building is safe and secure and ready for the day. Um, he builds really great relationships with our students, whether it's, checking in with friends during lunch, popping into classrooms to say good morning. Um, it's good for our students to see the resource officer and how helpful they are for us day to day and not just keeping us safe, but as a trusted adult to have um, they're supporting us every day here at school. He's there to inform students and help them learn, and support their job, but also his job and help our students to understand his role both in school and, when he's on road detail outside of those school hours, what it means to be a public safety official or a police officer, and how he helps contribute to our community. And then last but not least, he is or any school resource officer is a wonderful support to the staff and family and students of a building to ensure that we have safety plans in place. Should there be, we never want to think about it, but we are prepared with emergency plans in the building. Should an emergency arise, he is very well versed in all of that. Oh, and last but not least, our school nurse. I think Nurse Doug here at Hopewell has a celebrity status. You'll see him all over. But he, is a man that wears many hats, we'll say, right? If students have medications, he'll work with families, making sure the necessary forms and prescriptions and things are on hand. He will be at open house if you do need some of those forms to get ready to bring prescriptions for the school year for your child. He partners with families, to ensure that your child has all of the immunizations and vaccines ready for them to enter school and keeps communications with that. Our children wouldn't be kindergartners if there weren't some bumps and bruises along the way, especially on those playgrounds. If your 5-year-olds are anything like our 5-year-olds, we know in that transition to playing at school, there will be some bumps and bruises. So he is there to help with a great band-aid, always of the right size. He has all the sizes of band-aids and ice packs, plenty of those as well. Um, to support student health plans. I know I've seen in the chat that your child may have specific medical needs or allergies, and he is there to support and make sure that your child stays safe here in the building. Again, with dietary requirements, if your child has specific feeding restrictions, things like that. And then lastly, your nurse can also partner with the school counselor just to make sure that if there are needs that arise with mental health services, to help partner and find resources that would benefit your child in the long term.
And just to clarify, Becky, there are school nurses at each building.
Yes, every building has a full-time nurse. Yes. I can't imagine us functioning without one.
Yes, many visits.
Oh, yes. All right. And as that school year gets closer and closer, not that we're in any rush for summer to be here and end, but please keep in contact if you are not yet registered enrolled. It's okay. It's still early, we know, but I would encourage you to go ahead and register because the sooner you do, the sooner you can start receiving regular communication from your child's school. These are the principals of all of the early childhood schools. So if you want to jot their name down while we're here, or you can absolutely find that on the Lakota website. But for those families that are considered pre-registered or registered for next year, we are going to be sending out more regular communication as we get closer to summer. And then there are our email addresses and phone numbers. If you by chance had a question that was maybe more specific to your child or your child's school, please don't hesitate to reach out by phone or email, and we'll get back with you. And we want to make sure that this transition of your child to kindergarten is a successful one. And we want to partner with you for that and help ease that transition in any way that we can.
We have wonderful principals.
I'm a little biased, but I would agree. They are pretty great.
Absolutely. And this page is just some links to some resources for you. The ABC chart is what we use for phonics instruction in the classroom. So they will see that again when they start kindergarten. There are some alphabet flashcards again from our phonics program, then a website and app, just a suggestion. There is a link to some cutting practice if you want to start working on some of that fine motor. In the reading column here, these are our kindergarten read words or high frequency type words that students will be practicing in kindergarten. There is links to a storyline online, which is just a website where kids can listen to books. This link takes you to Midpoint Library and has information about their summer program. Info Ohio is free to all students in Ohio. You can use this username and password so your child can explore. There's a lot of ebooks and kid encyclopedia type information on that site. And then this website is really for parents, and it's about all that is involved and goes into counting. So it is 7 o'clock on the dot. Look at that, Becky. High five. Um, I hope that you all have a wonderful rest of your evening. We are so excited to have all of you join us in our Lakota family. If you are a returning family, um, thank you for continuing to use Lakota local schools. If you are a new family, I promise you're going to have an amazing experience. This is such a wonderful district full of amazing principals, teachers, families, students, and we are very excited for first a summer that we can all enjoy, and then next school year to welcome all of your new kindergartners. Thank
All
you.
right. Thanks for joining us, everyone, tonight. We look forward to starting the school year with you.
Bye.